Welcome to IT in Motion, where we make autonomous IT entertaining and informative. My name is Sanjog.
And my name is Josh. We're your hosts. Today we'll be talking about using AI and ML to identify incident causation with Dan Buckley from Hughes. But first, a short introduction about ourselves. Sun, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, my name is Sanjog Narola, or Sun. I'm the program manager for the Early Access Program, where we bring our customers or users of our product closer to the builders or engineers of our product, so they can influence how the engineers build our product. So we are ensured to solve the problems for our customers. How about yourself, Josh?
Yeah, my name is Josh Abraham. I'm a senior manager here at ScienceLogic in the engineering department. I oversee some integrations with Linux, AWS, Kubernetes, and Docker. I'm also part of the enablement project to make it easier for customers to build other integrations.
So we have a very special guest for you folks today. I want everybody to give a warm welcome to Dan, the man with the plan.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Dan, why don't you give us a little intro with your name and title and your organization, what you do there?
Well, my name is Dan Buckley, and I work for Hughes Network Systems for 23 years now, and I'm the Director of Network Management Systems.
All right, fantastic. Well, we'd like to get to know you a little bit better with a game we like to call This or That. And so we're going to ask you a few questions, give us your answer, and tell us why. So our first question for you is cats or dogs?
That's easy. Cats, because they're low maintenance.
Oh, sorry. My bad. I didn't mean to hit that button.
Apparently you disagree.
No, I have a cat. I love you, Jolie, if you're listening right now. Second question we got for you is basketball or soccer?
Soccer. Soccer requires fantastic skill, and it's fun to watch a fast-paced game.
I think he's only saying that
match.
The World Cup is on right now.
That's right.
It's like the new phase. It's what everybody's saying right now, right?
Probably.
I mean, if you were a real fan, you'd probably call it football.
Oh, I don't know. That's another.
Oh, spicy.
Yeah, it's a controversial one.
It is.
All right, how about mystery book or adventure book?
Mystery book. I like to get into a novel and meet all the characters and have a long timeline and a great ending.
Ah, okay. And Mac or PC?
PC.
Okay. I don't know if we can be friends anymore.
I know that's controversial.
Yeah, I mean... No, I understand. There's functions for both.
Absolutely. All right, AIOps or runbooks. And runbooks are, of course, standard procedures employees run to deal with different types of issues.
Runbooks. And then sometime, hopefully in the near future, AIOps.
Okay. So part of that overall transition. And can you tell us a little bit about like how you got to where you're at with that sort of like AIOps transformation and why runbooks are kind of where they are for you?
Well, over the years, we've added more and more automations to our management systems and runbooks, and we've kind of changed our methodology in order to remove the human, making a decision.
Sure.
Right.
So the automation is, we know something's broken. We don't need to have an engineer think about it and troubleshoot if we know exactly what the root cause is.
So tell us a little bit about how that's kind of evolved in your tenure at Hughes. I think you had mentioned that you've been there for quite a bit. We'd love to learn a little bit about that evolution, as well as your evolution and growth within the organization, what you're responsible for.
Well, I start off as a sales engineer for 3 or 4 years, and then managed a few small services or did engineering support for them. And then about 15 years ago, my boss came to me and said, "You're now in charge of network management." And I wasn't really in charge, but we had 1,000 devices that went under our initial tool that we used.
Was that Carl?
Yes, that's Carl.
Okay.
And then the first couple of years, we literally, just had to manually discover every single device pretty much. And we would tune the monitoring on just that device. Fast forward to today, now we monitor 100,000 SNMP objects, several dozen API endpoints, logs.
Yeah.
It's totally been night and day between now and 15 years ago.
Yeah, so it sounds like a whole lot of change in sort of the whole incident response environment and everything like that. Do you have any nightmare stories you can share with us?
Yeah, well, when about 12 years ago, we had an admin during a maintenance window on a Sunday morning at 6 a.m., updated the database directly with a query that set an IPv6 address for a device, and you didn't put a limit clause on it or the device identifier, and updated 11,000 IP addresses to a single IPv6 address.
Oof, well, there's no one doing that, right? There's no Control Z.
Well, it didn't break the management system, fortunately, but it took, we were not having much insight into the network for about 6 hours, and it took us 2 weeks to really clean it completely up.
All right. Well, let's flip that script a little bit and dream with us a little bit, Dan. Just tell us in an ideal world, what would be the quickest way you could close your incidents using the systems that you have?
So once we get adoption of automated remediation, which we're currently working on with several teams, we don't have a device that the SNMP agent fails on that we can't go out, log in, and restart the agent automatically, as opposed to, it's not a critical alarm because it's not really service impacting. So it'll sit on the board until the device owner responsible for it will see it or triage gets to it. Obviously, they're working on criticals. So it might sit there for a couple hours, even a day or two. And then they have to open an incident ticket. They have to contact the on-call person on that team and then wait for that person to log in, fix the issue. Sometimes they don't know that just restarting the SNMP agent is the simple fix.
Yeah.
And traditionally, doing something like that even is a change that people don't like to do because they think it might affect the service.
Right.
So if an agent goes down, okay, we're not really monitoring the service, but we can't just restart it in the middle of the day when.
Right. There's no maintenance window. There's no change board. All that kind of stuff.
But the move forward in technology and the tools, it's been proven to. We don't need human intervention in these types of really minor things.
Right.
Yeah. Absolutely. Do you see any way that AIOps or machine learning or other parts of incident response could be improved, kind of that dream world scenario, to prevent incidents from occurring in the first place?
Yes, change management. We're looking right now to invest a lot in change detection, which is really the majority of the causes of outages.
Right.
And a lot of the changes cause an outage immediately, and then there's a small percentage that a change will cause an outage over time. And we think we can identify a lot of those using some ML against logging. We're looking at some metrics that we want to do machine learning against to detect anomalies.
Mm-hmm. When has the tooling you've used helped get things fixed quickly, Dan?
Well, back in the day, we had a single computer do one thing, and now everything's N+1. You have a pair of devices, a cluster of firewalls, things like that, a cluster database. And before, we never really were able to manage but the single device. So if one of the cluster went down, it was all hands on deck, critical, alarm bells going off, and really the service wasn't impacted at all. Now today, we've pulled back from managing individual devices, and when we can, we manage clusters. So if a firewall fails over, it causes an event, it needs to be fixed, right? But there was no service outage, so it's not,
Yeah, it's not as
big red klaxons and all that.
The service isn't down. It's that transformation they talk about a lot of times in the DevOps space of moving from servers or services as pets to being cattle.
Yes.
That's what really?
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow, I didn't know that was an analogy.
Yeah, so the idea is, if you have a pet, you name your pet. Your pet is important to you. You give it special treatment. With cattle, you look at the whole herd and you take care of the herd, but you're not as interested in individuals, right? And so with server management, we want to really work towards that situation that Dan's describing. They're at, where you have a cluster, you worry about the cluster, you don't worry about the individual components. If one goes down, you can replace it.
Yeah.
And moving forward, we want to pull back a little bit further and I don't care about that cluster. The management doesn't care about that cluster. If the cluster fails over, that's a localized problem with the team that manages whatever cluster that is.
Right.
We want to be able to just show a happy smiley face or a frown and say, this service is impacted.
Yeah.
And then the triage people can drill in and get to the root cause quickly.
So do you think that AI and ML are going to help you kind of further move into that direction of more automated clusters don't matter as much, things are just kind of running better?
Absolutely. Running some ML AI against logging is going to be a huge thing for us in the hopefully next year or two. And we're looking at about 6 metrics that we run through machine learning, and one of them being weather. Because
Interesting.
some of our services are exclusively satellite, we need to know when weather may impact. So we actually can generate an event saying we have oncoming weather, and if there's an outage, they'll know that it's potentially weather related.
Why don't you describe to our listeners right now, what does Hughes kind of cover as it relates to the service that you guys provide to your customers?
We have a wide variety of services, from digital signage to connectivity to lottery terminals to in-flight Wi-Fi.
So I can win the lottery and then through Hughes, and then I can get on that airplane and tell my friends about it on social media through Hughes. It's great.
Yes.
Right. That's right.
Do it all. Do it all.
Well, most of those services, we have partners or customers that run those services. So you may not see the Hughes name associated with it. We're the underlying piping that the service runs
Makes it
over.
happen. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, right. There's a lot of layers in these sort of systems, so it makes a lot of sense. You're providing that underlying connectivity.
So going back to the topic of AI, any predictions on how AI or identifying incident causation will kind of come in fruition in the future?
Well, once we really adopt machine learning, the service owners still want to make a human decision. They're not prepared to put all their eggs in one basket and have a machine determine, a specific outcome or remediation. So AI is a little bit further down the road, I think.
Sure.
Machine learning is becoming a valuable tool now.
You kind of mentioned that, machine learning is here, starting to become valuable. AI is a little down the road. What does it mean for machine learning or for AI to give you the insights that you need to solve a problem or to figure things out?
Well, our team's responsible for monitoring of the services.
Yeah.
And we're constantly bombarded with this one device is broken,
Right.
Why? How are you monitoring it? And we don't really need to pay any attention to that device. So machine learning and AI allows us to aggregate incidences and develop a, health, availability, and risk assessment for a service,
Yeah.
as opposed to we have 1 out of 25 devices broken.
Yep.
It doesn't really impact any service.
Yep. And as AI and ML is kind of being more leveraged over time, it's saving you lots of time, really, right? And essentially that's the business cost, right? You're saving money. So how much over the last years have you seen cost savings through the leverage of AI and ML?
It's hard for me to quantify, but a lot. We, by managing clusters instead of individual devices, that saves people a lot of time.
Yeah, and the people who can manage that kind of stuff don't tend to be your lowest cost employees, right?
Correct.
With the tooling, with AI, with ML, what's gotten easier for your team?
Well, we can turn off a lot of alarm types such as memory utilization, CPU utilization, because those are only important if it impacts the service.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So if we look at it, as a whole, we can, using machine learning and AI, determine that we're using almost no resources or all our resources and make decisions accordingly on increasing or reducing the cost.
Dan, thanks so much for having this conversation with us.
And where can the audience learn a little bit more about you or Hughes?
Well, you can go to hughes.com, and that'll tell you all you need to know about all the services we offer and products.
When can I take pictures with those big satellite dishes that you have in the office?
Come on up to Germantown, Maryland anytime.
All right, you heard it, folks. So we're taking a trip to Germantown next time, and we look forward to seeing you there.
Thanks for listening, everyone. If you enjoyed today's episode, please hit the subscribe button in your favorite podcast app. We're available on YouTube, Apple, Stitcher, Spotify, and many other podcast platforms. And if you'd like to learn more about our podcast, please go to sciencelogic.com/podcast.